Last night, someone you lost came back to you. They walked into your dream as if death had never happened. They looked healthy. They looked peaceful. Maybe they spoke to you. Maybe they just stood there, and you felt their presence more vividly than you have felt anything while awake. And when you woke up, for just a moment, you forgot they were gone. Then reality crashed back in, and you were left with a question that has haunted humanity since the beginning of time. If death is the end, why do we dream of those who died? This isn't a rare experience. This isn't something that happens to a few sensitive people. Studies show that 58% of people have dreamed of a deceased friend or relative. That's more than half the population. A Pew Research poll from 2023 found that 46% of all American adults report being visited by a dead family member in a dream at some point in their lives. Women are more likely to report these experiences than men, with 56% of women compared to 36% of men. Among those who have lost a spouse or partner, that number jumps to 86%. 86%. Almost everyone who loses their life partner dreams of them after they are gone. Think about that for a moment. Almost everyone. This is not a fringe phenomenon. This is a near universal human experience. The standard explanation is that these are just memories. Your brain is processing grief. It's replaying old experiences with someone you loved. Nothing mysterious, nothing supernatural. Just neurons firing in patterns shaped by loss. The limbic system and prefrontal cortex become activated during these dreams, indicating the emotional and memory-related content involved in the process. But here's what that explanation cannot account for. Why do the dead in these dreams so often appear younger and healthier than when they died? If these were memories, wouldn't the brain replay what it actually observed, including the illness, the decline, the final days? But that is not what happens. The deceased appear as they did in life, vibrant and whole, as if death had never touched them. Why do they frequently convey messages of reassurance, telling the dreamer they are okay, they are at peace, the dreamer should not worry? If these were just memories, why would the deceased communicate something new, something the dreamer never heard them say while they were alive? Why do 67% of people who have these dreams report that the experience increased their belief in an afterlife? Why do 68% characterize the dreams not as memories, but as visitations? Why do 71% say the dreams helped them feel more connected with the deceased person? Something is happening in these dreams that does not fit the standard model. And Albert Einstein, of all people, may have understood why. Let me tell you about Einstein's closest friend. Michael Besso was born in Switzerland in 1873, just 6 years before Einstein. They met as young students at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, where both were studying to become physics teachers. Besso was actually the one who introduced Einstein to the works of Ernst Mach, the physicist and philosopher, whose ideas about the nature of space and time would later influence Einstein's development of relativity. After university, Besso helped Einstein get a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. They worked together, evaluating patent applications, and during lunch breaks and walks home, they would discuss the deepest questions in physics. Besso was not as brilliant as Einstein, and he knew it, but he was the perfect sounding board. He asked the right questions. He pushed back on Einstein's ideas in ways that forced Einstein to sharpen his thinking. When Einstein published his famous paper on special relativity in 1905, the paper that would change physics forever, he included only one acknowledgement. He wrote, In conclusion, I wish to say that in working at the problem here dealt with, I have had the loyal assistance of my friend, Monsieur Bessot, and that I am indebted to him for several valuable suggestions. That was Bessot, the loyal friend, the valuable suggester, the man who stood beside Einstein through the most revolutionary period in the history of physics. They remained close for 50 years. They wrote letters to each other constantly, discussing not just physics, but philosophy, family, the meaning of life. Bessot watched Einstein's marriages, his fame, his struggles, his triumphs. Einstein watched Bessot grow old, watched his health decline, watched the inevitable approach of death. On March 15, 1955, Michael Bessot died at the age of 81. Einstein received the news in Princeton, where he was living out his final years. The aneurysm in his own aorta was already weakening. He knew he did not have long himself. 6 days later, on March 21, 1955, Einstein wrote a letter to the Bessot family, and in that letter, he revealed something that challenges everything we think we know about death. He wrote, "Now he has departed from this strange world, a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Read that again. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. This letter is now archived as Einstein Archives document 7245. It was published in the New York Times in March 1972. Various translations exist. One version from the original French and German reads, "Now he's gone slightly ahead of me again. Leaving this strange world, that doesn't mean anything. For us believing physicists, this separation between past, present, and future has the value of mere illusion, however tenacious." Einstein was not offering empty comfort. He was not speaking metaphorically. He was stating what his physics had shown him to be true. According to the theory of relativity, time is not what we think it is. It does not flow from past to future, like a river. Instead, time is a dimension, just like the 3 dimensions of space. And just as all locations in space exist simultaneously, all moments in time exist simultaneously too. This is what physicists call the block universe theory. The concept comes directly from Einstein's work, though he did not use that particular term. Imagine the entire history of the cosmos, from the Big Bang to the heat death of the universe, frozen into a single 4-dimensional structure. Every moment that has ever happened and will ever happen exists within that block, equally real, equally present. The past has not vanished. The future has not yet to occur. Both are there, always, embedded in the fabric of space-time itself. The philosopher Karl Popper once had a conversation with Einstein about exactly this idea. Popper later wrote, "The main topic of our conversation was indeterminism. I tried to persuade him to give up his determinism, which really boiled down to the view that the world was a 4-dimensional Parmenidean block universe, where change was just a human illusion, or at least very nearly so." He agreed that yes, that had been his view. Einstein agreed. He believed that change itself, the sense that time flows, that things come into being and then pass away, is an illusion. A stubbornly persistent one, yes, but an illusion nonetheless. In the block universe, your grandmother isn't gone. She exists at her coordinates in space-time, just as she always did. The moment of her birth is real. The moment of her death is real. Every moment in between is real. Her first steps, her wedding day, the time she held you as a baby, the afternoon you sat together and talked about nothing in particular. All of it exists. All of it is real. All of it is happening. eternally, at its particular location in the four-dimensional structure of space-time. You can't visit her because you are at different coordinates in time, just as you can't visit the moon because you are at different coordinates in space. But she is there. She has always been there. She will always be there. Now, think about what this means for dream visitations with a loved one who passed away. If consciousness is somehow connected to this four-dimensional structure, if awareness can occasionally slip its usual moorings in the present moment, then what we call visitation dreams might be glimpses across time. Not memories replaying, not wishful thinking, actual contact with moments that still exist within the block universe. I know this sounds radical, but consider the evidence. Researchers have found that dream visitations with a loved one who passed away have consistent characteristics that set them apart from ordinary dreams. The deceased appears as they did in life, not as they did when they were ill or dying. They often look younger, healthier, more vibrant. They convey reassurance. They communicate that they are okay, that the dreamer should not worry, that everything is as it should be. Dr. Patrick McNamara, a professor at Boston University School of Medicine, has studied these dreams extensively. He notes that they are among the most remarkable and most important categories of dreams, yet they remain understudied. These dreams may hold a key to the functional nature of the dreaming mind itself, but we will never verify that claim without rigorous empirical investigation. In a study of 278 bereaved caregivers, 57.9% reported dream visitations with a loved one who passed away. Of those, 55.3% said the dream was pleasant and helped increase their comfort, quality of life, or acceptance of the loss. These were not nightmares. These were not distressing replays of trauma. These were experiences that brought peace. A Canadian research team conducted detailed surveys of people who had lost loved ones. They found that 67.1% of bereaved people who had dream visitations with a loved one who passed away said the dreams helped them believe more in an afterlife. 68.4% characterized their dreams as visitations, not as ordinary dreams. 70.9% said the dreams helped them feel more connected with the person who passed away. The research emphasizes the consistent and profound impact which these experiences have on grief. Both spontaneous and induced after-death communications have been repeatedly demonstrated to diminish or even entirely alleviate grief. Now, here is where it gets even more interesting. Einstein himself did not believe in personal immortality in the traditional sense. He was actually quite explicit about this. In his famous essay, What I Believe, published in Forum and Century magazine in October 1930, he wrote, "I cannot conceive of a God who rewards and punishes his creatures, or has a will of the type of which we are conscious in ourselves. An individual who should survive his physical death is also beyond my comprehension. Nor do I wish it otherwise. Such notions are for the fears or absurd egoism of feeble souls." That is harsh language. Feeble souls. Einstein rejected the idea that a personal consciousness continues after death in any traditional sense. He said, "One life is enough for me." He did not believe in heaven or hell or reincarnation or any kind of spiritual survival. But here is the paradox. The very physics Einstein discovered suggests something that might be even stranger than traditional immortality. The block universe does not require a soul that floats away after death. It doesn't require heaven or a spiritual realm. It simply requires that the moments of your life remain real after you have finished experiencing them from the inside. You are not going to continue living after death in the block universe, but you are also not going to stop existing. Every moment you have ever experienced continues to exist at its coordinates in space-time. Every conversation, every embrace, every mundane Tuesday afternoon, all of it remains part of the eternal structure of reality. And if consciousness can occasionally access moments outside its usual position in time, as may happen in dreams, then contact with those who have passed away is not impossible. It's not communication with a ghost or a spirit. It's contact with a moment in space-time where that person still exists, still is, eternally present in the block. But there's another piece of evidence that makes this even more compelling. And it comes from what happens to the brain at the moment of death. In May 2023, researchers at the University of Michigan published a groundbreaking study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Led by Dr. Jimo Borjigin, the team analyzed brain activity in 4 comatose patients as they were removed from life support and allowed to die. What they found was extraordinary. 2 of the 4 patients showed a massive surge of gamma wave activity as they died. Gamma waves are oscillations at frequencies between 30 and 100 Hertz, and they are associated with conscious experience, with perception, with awareness. These surges occurred in the temporoparieto-occipital junctions, regions of the brain associated with vision, hearing, and out-of-body experiences. The activity levels during death exceeded those found during normal waking consciousness. The study abstract states, both patients displayed surges of functional and directed connectivity at multiple frequency bands within the posterior cortical hot zone, a region postulated to be critical for conscious processing. Think about what this means. The dying brain is not fading quietly into darkness. At least in some cases, it is lighting up with activity that suggests heightened conscious experience. The brain appears to be having some kind of experience at the moment of death, potentially more vivid than anything experienced while fully alive. Earlier research in 2013 had shown similar results in animals. Researchers have found a transient surge of synchronous gamma oscillations occurring within the first 30 seconds after cardiac arrest. The activity was global and highly coherent. This frequency band exhibited a striking increase in connectivity between different regions of the brain. The neurophysiological activity in the near-death state exceeded levels found during the conscious waking state. We do not know what the dying brain experiences. We cannot ask the dead what they saw, but the evidence suggests they are seeing something intense, something that involves the very brain regions associated with perception and consciousness. Now consider this. In light of dream visitations, if consciousness can surge at the moment of death, accessing experiences that transcend normal waking awareness, and if the block universe theory means that all moments continue to exist eternally, then perhaps what we call death is not an ending, but a transition, a shift in perspective, a change in where consciousness is located within the 4-dimensional structure of space-time. And perhaps dream visitations are moments when the boundaries of that structure become thin, when the living can glimpse the moments where our loved ones who passed away continue to exist. This would explain why dream visitations feel so different from ordinary dreams, why they feel real in a way that other dreams do not, why they bring comfort rather than distress, why our loved ones who passed away appear healthy and peaceful. The dreamer is not just remembering. The dreamer is, in some sense, visiting. I want to be clear about something. This is not proven. It is a possibility, suggested by the physics, not a certainty, established by evidence. Albert Einstein himself would probably be skeptical of any metaphysical claims built on his work. He was a rigorous scientist who demanded proof, But he also said something else so that is relevant here. He said, the most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. He who does not know it and can no longer wonder, no longer feel amazement, is as good as dead. The mystery of why we dream of our loved ones who passed away is one of those beautiful mysteries. Science can measure the brain activity. Science can survey the experiences, but science has not yet explained why these dreams feel so different, why they bring such comfort, why they so consistently feel like visitations rather than memories. Perhaps the explanation lies in Albert Einstein's block universe theory. Perhaps consciousness is not as firmly anchored to the present moment as we assume. Perhaps our loved ones who passed away are not gone, but simply elsewhere, in the eternal structure of time. If this exploration of Albert Einstein's hidden insight about dream visitations and our loved ones who passed away has opened something in you, if you sense there are truths here that most people never consider, then supporting this channel through Super Thanks is how you help ensure these revelations keep coming. When you click that button, you are not just supporting a creator. You are saying that these questions matter, that the mysteries of consciousness and time deserve exploration, that you refuse to accept the shallow answers most people settle for. The seekers, the questioners, the ones who feel that something deeper is going on. You are why this channel exists. So, what does this mean for you right now? First, pay attention to your dream visitations differently. Do not dismiss them as just your brain processing grief. Treat them as data. Notice the details. Does the person appear healthy? What age do they seem to be? What message, if any, do they convey? How do you feel when you wake up? Keep a record. Over time, you may notice patterns that suggest something more than random neural firing. Second, consider what Albert Einstein understood about time. The past is not gone. Our loved ones who have died are not erased from existence. In the block universe theory, every moment of their lives continues to exist, as real as the moment you are experiencing right now. The separation you feel is real, but it is a separation in time, not a separation in being. They are there. They have always been there. They will always be there. Third, let this change how you relate to grief. The standard model of grief assumes that the person is gone and you must learn to live without them. But what if they are not gone? What if they simply exist at different coordinates in space-time? This does not eliminate grief. You still cannot reach them in the ordinary way, but it changes the nature of that grief from loss to separation. And separation, unlike loss, implies that what is separated still exists. Fourth, remember that science has not closed the door on these mysteries. The gamma wave research shows that we do not understand what happens to consciousness at death. The block universe theory shows that our intuitions about time may be wrong. The prevalence and consistency of dream visitations shows that something is happening that standard psychology cannot fully explain. Stay curious, stay open. The answers may be stranger than anyone expects. At fifth, trust the reality of your experiences. If you have dreamed of someone who died and that dream brought you comfort, do not let anyone tell you it was just your imagination. 68% of people who have these dreams characterize them as visitations. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You experience something that millions of people have experienced. something that researchers are only beginning to understand. Albert Einstein wrote that letter about Michael Besso just weeks before his own death. He was 76 years old. He knew his time was short. The aneurysm that would kill him was already rupturing. And yet, his final message about death was not despair. It was physics. It was the cold, beautiful truth that his equations had revealed. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Michael Besso was not gone. He had simply departed this strange world a little ahead. Albert Einstein would follow soon. And in the block universe theory, they are both still there, still discussing physics, during lunch breaks in Bern, still writing letters across the decades, still connected across the coordinates of space-time that contain their shared existence. 1 month after writing that letter, Albert Einstein himself died on April 18, 1955. The aneurysm ruptured completely. He refused surgery, saying, "I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it elegantly." In the block universe theory, Albert Einstein is not gone either. Every moment of his life exists eternally. The young patent clerk in Bern, the professor in Berlin, the exile in Princeton, the old man writing letters about his friend who passed away, all of it exists, all of it is real, all of it continues, forever, in the structure that contains all of time. You have lost people too. We all have. And perhaps, in your dreams, you found them again, not as ghosts, not as spirits, but as moments in time that continue to exist, waiting for consciousness to visit. If death is truly the end, then we shouldn't dream of those who have passed away. But we do. 58% of us do. 86% of widows and widowers do. And those dream visitations feel different from other dreams. They feel like actual visits. Maybe, just maybe, they are. Think about this. More than half of dying patients experience vivid dream visitations or visions of deceased relatives in their final days. A 2025 review, published in the International Review of Psychiatry, documented these end-of-life experiences, noting that patients often report seeing loved ones who have passed, coming to greet them, to comfort them, to guide them to whatever comes next. These experiences happen regardless of religious belief, cultural background, or education. They happen to both believers and atheists. They happen to scientists and artists alike, to the old, and sometimes even to the young. If the dying consistently see the dead, and if the bereaved consistently experience dream encounters, then perhaps the barrier between the living and the departed is not as absolute as we assume. Perhaps. Einstein's block universe theory offers a framework for understanding what so many people experience, but struggle to explain. The dead may not be gone. They may simply be elsewhere, in time. If this video has changed how you think about death, about dream visitations, about what Einstein's physics really implies, then I need to hear from you. Comment, visit, if you've had a dream encounter with a loved one who passed, and it felt like more than just a memory. Comment, memory, if you believe these dreams are just the brain processing grief. I personally read every comment in the first 2 hours after posting, and I respond to the ones that show real thought. Tell me about your experience. Tell me who you dreamed of. Tell me what they said or what they did. Tell me how it made you feel. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. Subscribe if you want to go deeper into the mysteries that Albert Einstein left behind. There is so much more to uncover, so much more they never taught you. And as Einstein himself famously said, the most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious, I'll see you in the next one, or perhaps in the block universe. I already have.